Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. As you can see, Andrew Lopez, and I think you're still in LA, right, Andrew? You need to be out here poolside, sir, and enjoying the weather. Jim Eichenhofer is back in New Orleans. I feel for you, but the office looks good.
Yeah, for once, I think you have me beat on the weather. That looks amazing where you're at right now. I might have to hit the pool here later this afternoon.
I was not aware that was an option.
Wow.
But you know what? I'll take my room for right now. It's okay. I got a lot of day left.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's as long as we don't go across the street because I don't know if our pay now Jim's paycheck can afford walking across the street to Rodeo Drive. But fellas, look, last night the Pelicans didn't get the W, but after the All-Star break, they've been playing really good. And some of the things that they've been doing, we want to kind of touch on here on this podcast. So let's just kind of start, Andrew, with Saddiq Bey, man. I feel like almost every other podcast we're talking about this guy could be the team's MVP. He's doing something special, something unique. And so far in this road trip, he's shown that he is a very good basketball player.
He is somebody who can settle this offense. Was talking to somebody about this the other night, and I think ADs might have mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast, but it reminds me of those times when the offense can kind of get out of whack. You throw it to Jonas on the post, and it settles everything down. I think you can kind of do the same thing with Saddiq. I know his numbers are up there in terms of points per possession off of post ups. I mean, he's one of the best there. I don't think, and JB's talked about this. Didn't know. I think that was part of his game, but it's been nice to see somebody who, at this stage, after having missed an entire year, to be able to come back and average what is a career high right now. We've seen the 3-point numbers go up. He's doing just a little bit of everything. I think it's nice to just see him. I think in that space, considering where he was. I think he's also his field goal percentage is also career high right now. So nice to see him just having that sort of year after missing, an entire season.
Yeah, I think he's doing a couple things that we don't see that often in the NBA anymore. I mean, one, you mentioned how he can settle the offense with he's just so physical against guys. He feels like he has a strength advantage against a lot of players that try to stop him in the paint, and he's been so effective with some of his post moves and some of his mid-range shots where he just is bigger than guys and physical. I think a lot of players in the NBA aren't even used to defending against that type of player anymore because we just don't see that. And the other element to me that's been so impressive is I feel like for the vast majority of NBA players, when they get into their fourth, fifth, sixth year, we kind of put a cap on them and we say, okay, they've been in the league long enough. We know what they are.
Right.
They're not going to get that much better. And I'm just so impressed by how much he's improved this year to the point where you say, you need to probably stop saying like he is just, like an above average role player. Like he's just shown that he's so much more capable of what we thought of him going into the season. So, I mean, how much better can he get? I feel like what he's shown lately, some of the games that he's had where he had a 40-point game, he did that. He's done that throughout his career here and there. But I mean, it's just, I think this stretch, the consistency at the level that he's played at is something that isn't something we've seen from him before in his career.
If you have a 51-point game, we know you can score the ball.
Yeah, along those lines, when you talk about what we saw in Utah, too, those last two possessions, that, it's crazy to get it to within 9, and Zion brings the ball up the court. And we talked to him in the radio broadcast afterwards for our post-game interview, and he was like, get the ball to Bey. And I think that's as a big a compliment as you can get, right? When crunch time happens, when players and coaching staff and now us plus fans go, get it to him.
Yeah, I mean, what a compliment that is to him. Going into the season, I know it's funny we talk about every so often that trade, and people were just kind of like, oh yeah, and by the way, they got Saddiq Bey, and now he's leading the team in clutch points this season. He's been, the go-to guy in a lot of the big situations. They've played in so many close games throughout the season. So for him to emerge as that, I mean, that's just such a big positive for him to go from, and like Andrew said as well, to have missed all of last season. And you would never know it by watching him this season. You would think that, he's been on the court all the way through, and he just did not miss a beat at all. He's jumped right in from the very beginning of the season.
It's also crazy to me to think that he hurt his knee against the New Orleans Pelicans. I know we've talked about that before, and I've talked about that with him, but just how much of a full circle moment it is knowing when that injury happened, or where that injury happened, I should say, and for him to come back and be able to play like this is it's fun to watch.
It's interesting. You go back to training camp. I remember Graf elbowing me in the side saying, "Hey, look, Saddiq Bey's pretty good. He was good before he got injured. He averaged double digit points." But did anybody suspect you plop in Deandre Jordan and he starts making an impact, getting the minutes and starting in a couple of games here in a row? Andrew, did anybody expect that? Did you?
No, no. I'm just, you knew he could still contribute. You know he could still be there as a player. Um, but up until last night, the four games that he had started, which coincided with the 4 game win streak, he was a plus in all of those games in terms of plus minus. I think there are certain teams that at this point of his career where you can play him, and there's certain players you can't play him against. Just because of if an offense is going to stretch you out, it doesn't uh, maybe benefit him to have him out there. But I think that the key for him has been the defensive end. Um, I go back to the Philadelphia game where he started the first start where he had the 15 rebounds and the 4 blocks, seventh oldest player to do that in NBA history. But in the Milwaukee game the night before, uh, in James Borrego's words, it was a layup line, layup dunk. Not much defensive resistance. In the first quarter against the Philadelphia 76ers the next night, the Sixers had one shot attempt in the restricted area. One shot attempt. There were a couple fouls in there as guys were driving in, but it was you saw the immediate impact on the defensive end. And I think what he has done has kind of helped to bring a different level of force to that defense. And you see I think the thing that kind of impresses me the most, and I know we talk about calling Saddiq the professional, DeAndre Jordan, it is what you want out of an NBA player, the professionalism. Had not played since October 29th, comes in and gives you these kind of minutes. Just a credit to him and where he's at in his career right now.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of didn't even click in my head until I looked it up that it had been since October that he played in a game. I knew it had been a while, but when I went through the game logs, I was like, wait a minute, it's been that long since he played in a game. So that was kind of jarring to me. But I mean, to me, I think part of what he's shown too is, we talk about chemistry sometimes in basketball, and it's not just, do the players get along with each other? It's you need to fill. There's different categories that a team of 5 guys needs to fill, and it feels like he's so content to if he plays 30, 25, 30 minutes in a game and doesn't take a shot, he's totally fine with that. He doesn't need to score at all. He'll have an opportunistic maybe tip in, he'll have an alley oop or here or there, but he goes out there with the mentality of I'm just here to rebound and play defense. And it feels like those are things that we've talked about all season that were areas that were weaknesses for the Pelicans that they needed to shore up. So I think that's been the most obvious reason why he's made an impact with that 4 game winning streak.
You don't become the NBA's all-time leader in field goal percentage by going outside and playing outside of your game and shooting
Right.
everything else. He's going to make a living in the lane. He's going to make a living in the restricted area, getting dunks, getting alley-oops, getting tips. So it's what you've seen from him for so long, and I think some people forget how good he was. I mean, this was an all NBA center, and he's got the
hmm
knowledge out there, and the guys, I think, trust him and respect him.
Andrew, you just brought that up, and it's something that I noticed in the game against the Clippers too. That's interesting. It's not just the rebounds or the offensive putback that he brings in. There were times in that game, even after a made bucket, he's grabbing Trey Murphy, he's grabbing Jeremiah Fears, he's grabbing Derek Queen on the court coaching. And we were shooting a free throw, and it was a positive play, but he was telling Trey something about on a defensive thing and switching. So I just think that element, especially when things in a game are going on, that's invaluable, right? To have that kind of
Yeah.
you know experience on the court by the play as games are going on, trying to figure things out, and him being able to tell you that.
We talked so much about him this year being that guy for Derek Queen, being in his ear, and we see it every game when he wasn't playing, sitting on the bench, sitting high on the bench, sitting next to DQ. Excuse me. Just being there when you needed him. It hits a little different when that guy is also on the court now, and doing it every night in the game. So I think that part is where it's a little bit of a change, but it's still nice to see what he could bring and how he can affect these guys.
I think along the same lines, Jim, one of the players that we've seen make his debut right before we left for this 11-day, 6-game trip was Dejounte Murray. And we've seen that ability to be able to lead on the court and also produce as well, man. Have you been impressed with what Dejounte's been able to do since coming back from an Achilles injury?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that he's done, you can't even really measure in stats. He's been, we talked about how Saddiq Bey is a guy that kind of steadies things when you get him the ball in post-up situations. I just think having a point guard, having somebody who's used to playing that position has been impactful in ways that you can't really necessarily measure. Just the calming presence, and even to me, just taking that load off of some of the other players' shoulders who aren't used to playing. You know, Herb can handle the ball. Herb can get you into the offense, but I'd rather have him spend all of his energy and time on, being a spot up shooter and focusing on being an all defensive kind of guy. So I think that's helped a lot. It does seem like Dejounte is, clearly he was out for more than a year, that he's still trying to find his rhythm with some of his just his timing and that kind of thing. But I think I'm really impressed by the way he's played in his first few games, the way that he's been able to step in. And by the way, too, Gus, shout out to the random people who've walked by you in the background that have made a cameo on the Pelicans podcast.
They're enjoying themselves. It's a nice day.
Exactly, but yeah, it's been a good start for Dejounte Murray though so far in the week or so that he's been back.
Just the presence he has on the court. I don't know if we saw it in the fourth quarter of both of the wins that he has played in the Golden State game and in that first Utah game. I want to say it was JB who said it after one of them that that's not a win if DeJounte's not on the floor. Like the calming presence he was able to kind of bring at the end. Again, as he's still trying to figure out teammates, we've seen him.
Yeah. There's
been a few turnovers of his that have simply just been, oh, I thought this guy was going to be here and he wasn't. Or,
yeah.
I thought that guy was going to make this cut and he wasn't, but, getting back familiar with some of these guys. So some of that is to be expected, but he's able to, he can still get to that mid-range jumper when he needs to. Shots got to come around. Not worried about that. I just think it's also been fun to kind of watch the joy that he's been playing with. Yeah. I think it was the Utah game, second to last Utah possession of the second quarter. He gets a steal, lays it off for a dunk, and he comes back down the court and he is just smiling. And you can see he gets back in his defensive stance and he is just smiling. And I think it's just one of those moments where you're like, oh, he's back, he's playing, and he's playing with a new level of joy. And I think that's, it's cool to see, and I'm happy for him, and I expect to see, as his minutes go up here, because he's still trying to do all this in, 24, 28 minutes a game right now. As those minutes go up, start to see more of that, Dejounte that we know, and then see how that kind of, you can use that to play off into the offseason.
By the way, guys, isn't this great to see? Like, not just him individually, but just the team overall. I mean, I know this is a bigger discussion in terms of what maybe a third of the rest of the NBA is doing over the last couple months of the season, but just to see the intensity, the motivation to win games. One of the quotes that Dejounte said in the locker room, I think it might have even been after the Golden State game, the first game that he came back. He basically said, "I'm really hungry. I'm starving right now in terms of wanting to compete, wanting to win games." So, I love to see that. It's just, this is so much better. I realize the game Sunday night against the Clippers was disappointing, but if you look at the stretch of games before that, this is so much better than what we're seeing in some of the games across the league where you see one team that's basically just opting out of trying to be competitive. It's been so much more compelling basketball to see players like Dejounte and Deandre Jordan be so motivated to do whatever they can to win as many games as possible over this stretch run of the regular season.
Well, Jim, I feel like we talked about it. Yeah, I feel like we talked about it in the first All-Star break after the podcast after the All-Star break, Jim, in that there's a lot to figure out in the final 26, from players to staff to your foundation to what kind of team you're going to have. And I don't think it's coincidental. All the players we've been talking about, we're about to get to one more. The game kind of got taken away a little bit, right? Whether it's Saddiq Bey with an injury, Andrew, as you mentioned, Dejounte Murray, sort of the same thing. So those guys are hungry, want to prove out and play. Deandre Jordan, sure didn't feel good to sit from October on to now. So you're getting to play. And then we move on to the next player because I thought, Andrew, you brought up a good point about Dejounte Murray, what he brings, calm, and then the dirty word right now in the last 3 games, turnovers. But you're seeing a guy in Jeremiah Fears, I think, kind of be put in a situation to close out that game in Utah and kind of calm things down and limit those turnovers. And he had a career night in the Clipper game. And Jim, to your point, that first quarter, credit LA. They made a move there with Zion not playing, went big. It kind of looked almost like varsity versus junior varsity in terms of that first quarter, but the Pels didn't quit. They wound up winning the second quarter and got to within one with the ball and a chance to take the lead in the third. So you're seeing a lot of that. But Andrew, a lot of that was the play of Jeremiah Fears. He's been playing really good basketball the last couple of games.
Since the All-Star break, he's averaging 15, 5, and 5 coming off the bench. And I think we saw maybe the best he's passed. He shot the ball well the last couple of games, 5 of 6 last night from 3. So career high in threes, career high in points. I would say even when he got to the 25 to set the career high, I felt like he's had so many, I think 20-point games this year and has been around there. It was crazy to me that like his career high was 24. Like I would have guessed he had got to 27 or 28 before at one point this year, but we spoke after the Utah win, one of the Utah wins, and he told me things are slowing down right now. The game is slowing down. And then we spoke again last night, and I asked him, he mentioned he's learning how to use his speed, and we've seen that throughout the year. And then I was like, what does that look like? Like, what does learning how to use your speed look like? And he mentioned, it's not just going 100 miles an hour the whole game. He's like, yeah, there's times where I can hit it, go, boom, I'm at the rim. We saw it the other night.
At the end of a quarter, yep.
Yeah, 5.2 seconds on the clock, and he's laying the ball up before the horn even goes off. We've seen that from him, but it's learning how to use the speed, when to kind of decelerate and then go. And it's like, I think that has been kind of the fun part to watch. And now he's, it could have gone sideways when he went to the bench. Like it was a very easy situation for him to just be like, hey, it's not working, whatever it is. You go back to even a game or two before the All-Star break. I think it's like 8 straight games now. He's got at least 7 straight games where he's got at least 4 assists. Those numbers are going up. He's had an 8-assist game. He's had a 6-assist game. He's had 2 double-digit rebounding games in this stretch. Learning now, like, hey, if he gets the rebound, he can get the rebound and go. That sets up your offense quicker. There's just a lot that he is learning, and I think, watching it in real time kind of reminds you why he was such a high pick in this draft.
Yeah, Andrew, you mentioned the scoring. I mean, we know that he's capable of the 20-point games. Going into the NBA as a lottery pick, I think that was kind of a given about him. But I've just enjoyed watching all of the other elements of his game that he can, improve his assist to turnover ratio, make better decisions. He had a great rebounding game the other night where it wasn't like the ball just bounced to him. He was battling guys. So, I mean, him just showing all of these other elements of his game has been a huge plus and is so big in terms of what his potential is going to be and how much he can improve going forward into the next season and beyond.
So I mentioned I felt like he'd had so many 20-point games this year. He had 10 20-point games coming into the season or coming into the game the other night against the Clippers. He had scored 23 times. He had scored 21 6 times and then had scored 24 in one of those games. So it really did feel like I thought he should have had more. But just being able to score 21 6 times, I was like, man, that feels like it was Jeremiah Fears' number for a while.
Yeah, it's been great to watch. And I think I love this to kind of echo what Jim is saying. We could go on and on and on and keep talking about legit good things happening with this team, but we're running short on time. So, Jim, let's get right to it as we like to do. I need a player of the week, a player to watch, and then we'll get to some trending numbers with the rest of this road trip.
Player of the week, I thought, has to be Saddiq Bey. He averaged 24.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists. His shooting splits were 53, 39, 82. And by the way, in the 4 games the Pelicans played, he took 28 free throws. So again, it's another area of his game where you didn't go into the season expecting him to be at the foul line that much, but it's just a credit to, him capitalizing on his strengths and some of the best things that he can do on the offensive end. The player to watch, we just talked about him, Jeremiah Fears. I mean, over these last 2 games on the weekend, road games, he averaged 23 points, 7 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and also 2 blocks. It was the first time that he's had multiple blocks in 2 games in a row. So again, he's doing things that we didn't necessarily expect going into the season, and B, things that we didn't see a lot of maybe earlier in the year, that he's bringing out all of these different aspects of his game.
All right, what you got next, Jim?
So let's go with trending numbers. And the Pelicans have 4 opponents this week: the Lakers, the Kings, the Suns, and Washington. So the trending number for the Lakers is 115.3, and that is their defensive rating since February 1st. Pelicans are 116.2 over that same span. Lakers are 16th in defense. Pelicans are 18th since the beginning of February. So can the Pelicans take advantage of that? This has been a weakness for the Lakers throughout the season, that they're a great offensive team. They have 3 of the best offensive players in the league, but the defensive end continues to be an issue for them. Going to Sacramento, which is the game Thursday night at 9 o'clock, the trending number for the Kings is not a pretty one. They're 2-18 in their last 20 games. The Pelicans over that span since January 18th are 9-9, so obviously exactly 500. So it's a matter of, I guess you don't say this too often with a team that has the Pelicans record, but it's kind of thing where it's like they need to just take care of business and do what they did against the Kings when Sacramento played here right before the All-Star break, a game that was pretty ugly and pretty one-sided in favor of the Pelicans. Friday game, Phoenix, the trending number for the Suns is 4-6, and that's their record without Dillon Brooks. One thing, as we record this, we don't know exactly what Devin Booker's status is, but I believe he will be back by Friday, the way things sound. So, but Dillon Brooks will be out for that game.
Well, Jim, I'm really disappointed. I thought your trending number for the Lakers was how many times there'd be a social media post of LeBron and Luka looking like they're unhappy, Luka and JJ Redick looking like they're unhappy. That's the most unhappiest team I've ever seen in my life via social media. So we'll see what happens with that.
Especially a team that has a winning record. And by the way, I could have made that as a trending number, but I cannot calculate how high that could be. So I had to go with something else. Last thing for trending number, the Wizards, which is Sunday back home here. The trending number for them is that they're 1-10 on the road since January 1st. However, their one road win was at Detroit, which makes absolutely no sense. So those are the trending numbers for those 4 teams.
I want to do a quick little rapid fire thing here. Then we can wrap up this edition of the podcast. March preview. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit with these trending numbers here, but Andrew, we'll start with you, and then Jim, let's just kind of get into it. Is there a home game you're kind of looking forward to? Is Clipper series coming up, a little baseball series coming up?
It's March 11th, Toronto. Brandon Ingram's back in the blender. Like that one, that one's pretty easy. And I'm gonna guess you could probably guess which road game I'm looking forward to too, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay, Jim, is there a hhome game you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I thought that somebody else might say Toronto, so I went with Cleveland just because James Harden, it's later in the month. I'm curious to see them play in person with the new alignment that they have. So I went with the Cavs.
Okay, for me, it's I think this Clippers series. That game, what was interesting, the disparity in turnover points. Hopefully, if the Pels don't turn the ball over again like that, maybe it can beat the Clippers. That's an interesting team. And the road game is next. Andrew, is it? For me, it's the Knicks. What's for you?
It's the Knicks. Like come on, man. We're going into Jose's house now. Like, is he going to try to GTA some guys? Like, just experiencing Jose Alvarado in New York. I have circled that game since the trade deadline and can't wait to get up there.
I went with New York and then the Lakers. I mean, 2 of the storied arenas in the league. I'm curious to see how the Pelicans do on the stage of Crypto.com Arena in Madison Square Garden.
I think you just want more of those streamers. Hopefully we don't get any of those, though, based off of they only do it when they win. And is there just an overall game, Andrew, that you think is the most important game for the Pels in this month?
Kind of going back to what Jim said, and it's weird to say with a team with the Pels record, but when you play teams like the Kings, or teams that are kind of actively not trying to improve their self in the standings, you have to get those games. If you're kind of trying to set a tone for next season, there's other games that you're going to try to win. Obviously, you play Houston a couple of times where you can, a team you've had a little bit of success against, had a very good comeback against. But I think you need to be in a position where you can still beat the teams that at this part of the season with a healthier roster, you should beat.
I went with the Dallas game on March 16th just because Dallas is one of those teams that's a little bit ahead of you in the standings. I would love to see the Pelicans finish ahead of Memphis and the Mavericks. So just a game that I think would be good for the Pelicans to be able to win.
I'm going to kind of group them all together. And I mean, the homestand, it feels like we've been on the road a ton. And I think giving fans the exciting brand of basketball we've been able to see here on the road and over the last couple of games since the All-Star break would be key. And in that homestand, you got teams that are battling for playoff spots, teams that are, maybe not so. So I think just the 6 games at home in the month of March, to me, they're all important. I think if you can win as many as you can there, Pels fans kind of deserve to see good basketball and a lot of their guys that they hadn't seen most of the season. Does it make sense?
I agree. 6 out of 7 at home. After 10 days away from home, I'm very much looking forward to it.
I like that. Plus, we get to see Jim, so that's always a good thing as well.
Lucky you.
Well, he sounds so enthused. I think he likes having all that space with us out of town. Well, as always, appreciate it, Andrew. All you got to do is just come across the hallway there, man. Come hang out over here in the pool. That's all you got to do.
This weather looks great. I might be there in a second.
I hear you, man. It looks good. Don't forget to go check out Jim's stuff over on Pelicans.com. Jim, as always, man, a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Gus. Enjoy your lap swimming that I'm sure you're about to do.
I will try. That's Andrew. I'm Gus. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time for the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.